You finally get the promotion, buy the dream phone, or win the recognition you've been craving. For a moment, it feels incredible, like this time, you've finally made it. But then, slowly, the excitement fades, and you're back where you started, looking for the next thing. Why does happiness always slip away so quickly? Schopenhauer had an answer. What we call happiness is not a permanent state, but only a temporary pause in suffering. In this episode, we uncover why pleasure never lasts, and what this truth means for life in the modern world. Think about the last time you achieved something you worked hard for. Maybe it was a new job, a big purchase, or even just finishing a long task. At first, there's a rush of excitement, your heart beats faster, everything feels brighter, and you think, this is it. This is happiness. But how long did it last? Hours, days, maybe a week at best. Slowly, the feeling faded, and you were already planning the next goal, the next purchase, the next high. This is exactly what Schopenhauer warned us about. Happiness, he argued, is never stable. It's a brief spark, quickly extinguished by the return of new desires. We trick ourselves into believing that the next achievement will finally bring lasting peace. But the truth is, every moment of joy is just a pause before the cycle begins again. Modern psychology confirms this. It's called the hedonic treadmill, the tendency for people to quickly return to a baseline level of happiness, no matter how big the achievement or reward. You buy the car, but soon it's just your car. You get the job, but soon it's just your job. The extraordinary becomes ordinary, and the chase begins anew. The fleeting nature of happiness isn't a personal failure, it's part of human design. Schopenhauer saw it centuries ago, long before consumer culture and social media amplified it. We keep running after things, believing they'll fill us permanently, only to discover the joy is temporary every time. This truth can feel depressing, but it can also free us. Because once we stop expecting happiness to last forever, we can begin searching for deeper forms of contentment that don't vanish as quickly. At the core of Schopenhauer's philosophy is a simple but unsettling truth: desire creates suffering. Every time we want something, we feel tension, restlessness, even pain. It's that gnawing sense of, I'm not complete until I have this. And the moment we finally get it, whether it's love, success, money, or recognition, the pain vanishes. But what we mistake as happiness is really just relief. Think about it. When you're hungry and eat, the pleasure comes not from gaining something new, but from the end of discomfort. When you crave recognition and finally receive praise, the joy comes from the silence of insecurity, for a little while. Schopenhauer insisted that what we call happiness is never positive in itself, it's only the absence of desire's ache. But here's the trap: once a desire is fulfilled, emptiness creeps in. That sense of completion doesn't last, and the blind force of endless wanting, creates a new craving. It might be bigger, stronger, or completely different, but it drags us back into the cycle. Fulfillment never brings peace, it only resets the clock. This cycle plays out everywhere in modern life. We chase careers, possessions, relationships, and even self-improvement with the same logic: once I have this, I'll be happy. Yet each victory fades, and we return to wanting more. Schopenhauer believed this was the root of human suffering, an endless pendulum swinging between desire and boredom, never finding lasting satisfaction. Understanding this doesn't mean giving up on goals, but it does mean seeing desire for what it is, a restless force that can't be permanently satisfied. And once we see it clearly, we begin to ask a deeper question, not just, what do I want next? But, is chasing more the only way to live? Schopenhauer made a bold claim: happiness doesn't truly exist as a positive state. What we call happiness is simply the absence of pain. This idea may sound harsh, but when we look closely, it starts to make sense. Imagine you're in discomfort, hungry, tired, anxious, or longing for something. When that discomfort is removed, you feel relief. Relief feels good, but it's not the same as permanent joy, it's just the temporary silence of suffering. Eating when hungry, resting when exhausted, or receiving affection when lonely all feel wonderful in the moment. Yet, these pleasures are only moments where pain has stopped, not a stable condition that lasts. Modern science echoes this. Studies show that our brains are wired to notice problems more than stable satisfaction. That's why we adapt so quickly to comfort. The nice house, the good salary, the new relationship. At first they silence discomfort, but soon they feel normal, and the restless will awakens again. We crave more, chasing another temporary silence. This is why, for Schopenhauer, life often feels like a seesaw between suffering and relief, rather than a steady climb toward happiness. Pleasure is always borrowed time, a gap before the next wave of longing. What does this mean for us? It means we should stop expecting life to deliver endless happiness. Instead of seeing pleasure as a permanent goal, we can see it as a passing gift. By lowering the illusion that joy will last forever, we reduce disappointment when it fades. True wisdom, Schopenhauer believed, lies in recognizing that pleasure is fleeting, and learning to live in a way that doesn't depend entirely on chasing it. If Schopenhauer could see the modern world, he would probably say that consumer culture is the will in its purest form. The endless cycle of desire and emptiness he described has been transformed into a business model, carefully designed to keep us craving. Everywhere we look, advertisements whisper the same promise: buy this, and you'll finally be happy. A new phone, a faster car, trendier clothes, the next big vacation, all sold as solutions to dissatisfaction. And yet, the pattern never changes. We buy, we feel the thrill, and soon, the excitement fades into boredom. What was once new becomes ordinary, and the craving begins again. This is not accidental. Marketing thrives on dissatisfaction. Social media influences showcase lifestyles that trigger envy. Brands release upgrades to products that were perfectly functional. Even trends in fashion, entertainment, and technology move faster, pushing us to believe that what we have is already outdated. Consumer culture hijacks the same psychological loop Schopenhauer identified: desire, fulfillment, emptiness, repeat. The will keeps us running like hamsters on a wheel, believing happiness is just one purchase away. But the wheel never stops, because the will never rests. The cost of this cycle is not just financial, it's emotional. We measure our self-worth by possessions, appearances, or status symbols, forgetting that none of these can bring lasting peace. We become restless collectors of experiences and things, always seeking but never arriving. Schopenhauer's warning becomes clear here: as long as we believe consumerism can satisfy us, we remain prisoners of the will. Real freedom begins when we see the trap for what it is, and stop expecting the next purchase to solve our restlessness. If happiness is fleeting and consumer culture keeps us trapped in endless craving, the question becomes, how should we rethink happiness itself? Schopenhauer suggested that chasing constant pleasure is a mistake, because pleasure by nature cannot last. Instead, we should aim for states of life that are less dependent on external desires and more rooted in inner experiences. One way is to shift focus from acquiring to experiencing. Creating art, enjoying music, reading deeply, or connecting meaningfully with others doesn't eliminate the will, but it channels it into forms that enrich life rather than exhaust us. Unlike possessions that lose their shine, meaningful experiences linger in memory and shape who we are. Another way is to cultivate appreciation of the present moment. Mindfulness, reflection, or simply slowing down allows us to recognize value in ordinary life without rushing toward the next desire. This doesn't mean rejecting ambition, but rather balancing ambition with presence, working toward goals while not postponing life's worth to some distant achievement. Schopenhauer also suggested turning to compassion. When we shift focus from ourselves to the shared struggles of others, we see beyond our restless cravings. Helping, giving, or understanding others creates meaning that goes deeper than temporary pleasure. Rethinking happiness, then, is not about eliminating desire but about learning not to be enslaved by it. Instead of asking, "What will make me happy forever?" a question with no answer, we can ask, "What can bring me peace, even if only now?" That shift changes everything. So what does all of this mean for us today? Schopenhauer's insights might feel heavy, but they carry a practical wisdom that can change how we live. The key is not to expect happiness to be permanent, but to understand its fleeting nature, and to live more intelligently within that truth. First, awareness is essential. When you notice the cycle, desire, fulfillment, emptiness, you stop blaming yourself for never feeling satisfied. It's not a personal flaw, it's how human desire works. This awareness helps reduce frustration and disappointment. Second, moderation is powerful. Instead of pouring all your energy into chasing the next purchase, the next milestone, or the next high, set boundaries. Limit the grip consumer culture has on you. Appreciate what you already have while still working toward your goals. Third, pursue depth over novelty. Choose activities that enrich your inner life, art, philosophy, learning, or genuine human connection, over shallow pleasures that vanish quickly. These don't eliminate restlessness, but they give you forms of fulfillment that last longer and matter more. Finally, practice compassion and perspective. Recognize that everyone around you is caught in the same cycle of wanting and suffering. This awareness softens judgment, fosters kindness, and reminds us we are not alone in our struggles. The takeaway is simple but profound: don't seek a happiness that never fades, that's an illusion. Instead, cultivate moments of peace, meaning, and connection. Schopenhauer's lesson is that life will always have restlessness, but wisdom lies in managing it, not being consumed by it. Schopenhauer reminds us that happiness is fleeting and often misunderstood. What we call joy is usually just a brief pause in suffering, a temporary silence in the endless cycle of desire. Modern life, with its constant notifications, consumer culture, and social comparison, only intensifies this pattern. But understanding this truth can free us. By shifting focus from chasing constant pleasure to cultivating meaningful experiences, mindfulness, and compassion, we can find deeper satisfaction that isn't entirely dependent on external circumstances. True contentment comes not from endless wanting, but from seeing the nature of desire clearly and learning to live wisely within it.